Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in Cook County, Illinois say that they were able to quickly bust a couple of accused robbers this week after they held up a pair of armored cars and stole cash, but were seemingly unaware that the loot contained a tracking device. According to reports, the incident began on the morning of May 2nd, when two Brinks armored truck drivers went to make a pickup at a bank inside of a supermarket in the village of Homewood. When they finished up at around 9:25 a.m., one of them went to use the bathroom while the other walked back out to the vehicle. As he did, he was allegedly pistol-whipped in order to get back into his truck by two men carrying handguns. The two armed men proceeded to take 7 plastic bins and 10 deposit bags from the armored trucks, all of which contained cash. By the time they fled the scene in a stolen Nissan Maxima, it's estimated that they had about $1.2 million in their possession. While this was certainly quite the score, according to police, the suspects weren't able to celebrate for very long. It turned out that at least one of the bins the men had stolen had an Apple AirTag tracking device in it. Authorities quickly followed the device to a home on Justine Street in Calumet Park, where they found the 2 accused robbers, as well as 2 handguns and all of the stolen cash. The 2 men allegedly responsible for the crime have been identified as Devontae Davis and Daryl Singleton. Both men were taken into custody at around 3:25 p.m. on the same day the robbery took place.
Authorities in Atlanta, Georgia say that 1 person is dead this week and several others are injured following a shooting inside the waiting area of a medical building. According to reports, the incident happened at around noon on May 3rd at a Northside Hospital medical building located on West Peachtree Street between 12th and 13th Streets. It took place on the 11th floor of a building in a waiting area and allegedly began when a 24-year-old man, later identified as Dion Patterson, opened fire on several people after becoming agitated with staff. The attack reportedly lasted for about 2 minutes, after which Patterson fled the property and ran to a nearby Shell gas station, where he stole a pickup truck that had been left running and unattended. When police responded to the scene of the shooting, they found 5 people suffering from gunshot wounds. 4 of those victims, described only as 4 women ages 25, 39, 56, and 71, were rushed to nearby Grady Hospital, while a 5th woman, identified as 38-year-old Amy St. Pierre, was sadly pronounced dead. After it was discovered that the gunman had fled the scene, a manhunt was launched for Patterson. That search finally came to an end roughly 8 hours later when the 24-year-old was found hiding at the Waterford Place condominiums complex in Cobb County. Patterson was arrested at the scene without incident. While no motive has been officially confirmed at the time of this recording, Patterson's mother claims that the shooting was prompted by mental health issues that her son was suffering from. The 24-year-old, who reportedly served in the U.S. Coast Guard from 2018 to January of this year, apparently felt that he had recently been given the wrong medication for his condition from the Department of Veterans Affairs, and had traveled to the medical building with his mother that day to try and get something different. The mother stated to media during an interview that Patterson wanted the anti-anxiety drug Ativan, but when doctors at the clinic refused to prescribe it, he got angry. That's when he had pulled out the weapon and started firing. Patterson is now facing a number of charges in connection with the fatal attack, including 1 count of murder and 4 counts of aggravated assault. Currently, at least 3 of the victims injured in the shooting remain in serious condition, with 2 of them having had to undergo surgery. The family of the deceased victim, Amy St. Pierre, meanwhile, say that they are trying to cope with their unimaginable loss. The 38-year-old was apparently the married mother of 2 children and also worked for the CDC. A statement released by her family read in part, quote, "Our beloved Amy was brilliant, kind, big-hearted, and simply the best of the best. An Emory Honors graduate and Georgia State MBA, Amy traveled the world with curiosity and courage. She was driven by compassion, both in her work in the field of maternal mortality and in her everyday life. Amy was selfless always. She wanted more for others, but never herself. Generous supporter of worthy causes, she was the social conscience of our family."
Authorities in Phoenix, Arizona say that they have arrested a man in connection with the murder of a 29-year-old woman this week, whose remains were discovered last week after she disappeared from a hiking trail. According to reports, the case began on April 28th when 29-year-old Lauren Heike went for a walk on a community trail near the 6500 block of East Libby Street. She left for her hike at around 10 a.m., though never returned. Approximately 24 hours later, Lauren's body was discovered by a dog walker. The place where she was found was reportedly off the main trail and wouldn't have been visible to people casually walking by. While little has been released about the cause of Lauren's death, authorities stated that she suffered traumatic injuries consistent with an attack from behind. On May 2nd, a short, blurry video clip was released by investigators of a man seemingly running from the trail where Lauren had been found the day of her murder. Police stated this man was a person of interest in the case and requested the public's help in identifying him. Authorities now say they have positively identified the suspect as 22-year-old Zion William Teasley, thanks to DNA, video, and cell phone evidence which all allegedly placed him at the scene of the crime. According to reports, Teasley has a previous criminal history that includes robbery, kidnapping, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and more recently served time in prison from July of 2021 to November of 2022. It's further alleged that Teasley may have been planning to flee the state following the murder, as police say they discovered evidence that he had purchased a plane ticket to Detroit. At the time of this recording, Teasley remains in custody on a first-degree murder charge, though the motive behind the crime still remains unknown.
Authorities in Charleston County, South Carolina say that a 25-year-old accused drunk driver is facing homicide charges this week after she allegedly smashed into the back of a vehicle carrying a newlywed couple, killing the bride and seriously injuring the groom. According to reports, April 28th was supposed to be one of the happiest days of Samantha Miller and Eric Hutchinson's lives. The two were married in a ceremony surrounded by friends and family, after which they held a reception on Folly Beach. As the night was coming to an end, the newlywed couple walked out of their venue under a canopy of sparklers and got into a golf cart with two other family members. The vehicle was road legal, equipped with all of the proper lights, and was meant to take Samantha and Eric on the short drive down a beach back road to where they would be spending the night. However, before they could complete the journey, things took a tragic turn when they were rear-ended by another vehicle. According to reports, that other vehicle was being driven by 25-year-old Jamie Komorowski, who police now allege was drunk at the time. At the time of the crash, Komorowski was reportedly traveling at 65 miles an hour, more than double the road's posted 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. The resulting impact apparently sent Samantha and Eric's golf cart flying, flipping over and over again until it finally came to a stop more than 100 yards away. Samantha was killed nearly instantly, family members say, while the other three passengers were seriously injured. Eric himself reportedly sustained brain damage and so far has had to endure at least 2 reconstructive surgeries. When police arrived at the scene, they apparently tried to get Komorowski to submit to a field sobriety test, but she was allegedly uncooperative. Still, authorities allege that it was obvious she was intoxicated, as she allegedly reeked of alcohol and was unsteady on her feet, almost falling over at one point. She was arrested and samples of her blood were taken and tested shortly after. The results of those tests have so far not been released, though the 24-year-old has since been charged with 3 counts of felony DUI resulting in great bodily injury and/or death, and 1 count of reckless vehicular homicide. Friends and family members say that they are now not only mourning Samantha's tragic death, but also the loss of the life that she and Eric were supposed to spend together. The groom's mother spoke about the heartbreaking feeling of being given her son's wedding ring in a plastic bag at the hospital after the crash. She said Samantha had put the ring on his finger just 5 hours earlier as they read their vows. At the time of this recording, Komorowski remains in custody. If convicted, she faces a sentence of 1 to 25 years in prison for each of her DUI counts.
Authorities in Colquitt County, Georgia say that 4 people are dead this week, including the gunman, after a 26-year-old man fatally shot 3 people at separate locations before turning his weapon on himself. Based on witness statements and evidence collected from different crime scenes, authorities say that they believe the incident began at around 1 a.m. on May 4th, when 26-year-old Kentavious White shot and killed his 50-year-old mother in their shared residence in the city of Moultrie. It's alleged that he then went next door, killing his 74-year-old grandmother in the same manner in her home, before traveling roughly a mile east to the McDonald's location where he worked on 1st Avenue Southeast. Upon arriving at the fast food restaurant, surveillance footage reportedly shows that White got the attention of his 41-year-old manager, Amia Smith, who came to one of the doors to unlock it and let him in. When she did, White reportedly gunned her down as well. A short time later, White apparently ended the killing spree by turning his weapon on himself. Police were alerted to the situation at around 6 a.m. when Amia's body was found in the doorway of the McDonald's where she had let White in. At the time of this recording, almost no other details have been released about the case, and the motive behind the chilling attacks remain unclear. The only other piece of information that we have comes from a neighbor of White's who alleges that Moultrie police had responded to the 26-year-old and his mother's residence earlier this week, when White allegedly went outside and fired a gun while shouting something. The neighbor claimed that prior to this, he had never seen White behaving violently before. Currently, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation has been assigned to the case, and the situation is still developing.
Authorities in Okaloosa County, Florida say that a 40-year-old Alabama man is facing charges this week following an alleged road rage incident in which he attacked a car full of teenagers. The incident took place on April 21st when the suspect, later identified as 40-year-old Thomas Keebler, apparently got into some kind of road dispute with the victims while traveling on Highway 20. Sources do not mention how the situation started, but according to reports, at some point Keebler started tailgating the teens. Things escalated further when he allegedly passed them aggressively, then dangerously tapped on his brakes. Still apparently not satisfied with this, Keebler reportedly followed the teens afterwards until they pulled into a gas station, ironically located in the city of Niceville. The station's surveillance cameras captured what happened next. In the footage, Keebler can be seen blocking the teens' car in so that they can't leave before getting out of his truck and approaching their vehicle. He then proceeds to repeatedly kick a door closed on the leg of a backseat passenger of the car before getting into a further altercation with a female passenger and the driver. During this time, he forcefully throws the teenage girl to the ground before putting the driver in a headlock and punching him in the face a number of times. The situation only came to an end once a good Samaritan at the station saw what was going on and managed to intervene. Keebler fled the scene shortly afterwards. Unfortunately for the 40-year-old, after the violent incident was reported, police recognized him. In subsequent interviews, they referred to Keebler as, quote, an individual our deputies have encountered numerous times, and a danger on the road and off. Keebler reportedly has an extensive criminal history, which includes driving under the influence, assault, possession of cocaine, and making terroristic threats. After being recognized, police arrested Keebler on April 25th. He has now been charged with abuse of a child without great bodily harm, battery, touch or strike to another person, and criminal mischief.
Authorities in Mobile County, Alabama say that they are investigating a fatal gun-related incident this week after a man allegedly tried to attack several people at a house where he was staying, but was instead shot and killed by one of the other residents there. According to reports, the situation began sometime on the evening of April 29th, when a woman named Michelle Jones arrived home in the town of Grand Bay. The house apparently belonged to her 80-year-old uncle, however, she lived there with him, her mother, and her 8-year-old daughter. When Michelle stepped inside that night, she discovered that things were tense. A man named Oliver Turner, who her uncle had allowed to stay in the house for a few days, was acting belligerently and appeared to be extremely drunk. According to Michelle, at first she tried to ignore Turner, however, his behavior only became more erratic as the night progressed. At some point she realized that the exterior of the house had been set on fire, though she was able to extinguish the flames. While Michelle reportedly believed that Turner had been responsible for the fire, she once again tried to not escalate things, deciding instead to try and go to sleep. However, things took a frightening turn when Turner allegedly dragged her into the bathroom and tried to pour a flammable substance on her. Convinced that Turner was trying to set the house on fire with her and her family members in it, Michelle first grabbed her daughter and took her to the safety of her car before heading back inside and grabbing a handgun. As she was leaving her room, Turner allegedly tried to approach her once again, causing Michelle to fire at him before fleeing. When officers were called to the scene, Turner was pronounced dead. Authorities say that witness statements given by Michelle's family as well as injuries she sustained during the incident match with what she told them, so she was not placed under arrest. At the time of this recording, police say that they are still investigating the fatal shooting, though say that they believe it was a case of self-defense. Turner reportedly had a lengthy criminal record prior to his death, including a 2021 arrest for first-degree arson.
Authorities in Collin County, Texas say that 9 people are dead this week, including the gunman, following a terrifying shooting at an outdoor shopping mall. The incident took place just after 3:30 p.m. on May 6th at the Allen Premium Outlets, about a 30-minute drive north of Dallas. The shopping center was reportedly bustling with people that afternoon, when out of nowhere, the sound of gunshots began to ring out. A gunman, later identified as 33-year-old Mauricio Garcia, had opened fire and was now shooting indiscriminately at shoppers and store employees. He was armed with a rifle and at least one handgun and was wearing a tactical vest. As the attack continued, terrified witnesses were forced to scramble for their lives. In an interview with local media, the manager of a Tommy Hilfiger clothing store in the mall complex described seeing 2 young girls trying to hide in one of the business's changing rooms. At first, she thought that they were simply playing, but then one of them told her that someone was shooting outside. Other customers ran towards the back of the store. Eventually, the manager and others managed to escape through a back exit door. The horrifying incident finally came to an end when a police officer shot and killed Garcia. The officer was reportedly at the mall before the attack started and was responding to an unrelated call. 6 other people were declared dead at the scene, while a further 2 sadly succumbed to their injuries after arriving at a nearby hospital. While not all of the victims' names have been released at the time of this recording, 2 of them have so far been identified as Aishwarya Tatakonda and Christian Lacour. Aishwarya was said to be an engineer from India who had received a master's degree in the United States and was working for a Dallas-based contracting firm at the time of her murder. Christian was a 20-year-old security guard who was on duty at the mall at the time the attack took place. Family members described him as a beautiful soul with goals for his future. The other deceased victims have so far only been described as being between the ages of 5 and 61. At least 7 others were reportedly wounded in the attack, with 3 said to be in critical condition. As for the shooter, Mauricio Garcia, authorities say that he was also a former security guard who had received firearms training. Little is currently known about the motive behind the horrendous attack, though several sources have alleged that police are investigating the 33-year-old's online activity and have reportedly uncovered evidence of extremist political views. Detectives have so far said little about this, though have confirmed that at the time Garcia was killed, he was wearing a patch on his outfit that contained an acronym supposedly popular with a number of far-right groups. At the time of this recording, the situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.